Gotta take a breath every now and then, let people catch up. Initiated Measure 22 is one of Rick Weiland's measures. Short term is the Anti-Corruption Act. This is the big monster. It's the biggest one on the ballot. It's 70 sections. It takes a long time to read. I'm going to give you the three main points of this one. Initiated Measure 22, Rick Weiland's Anti-Corruption Act. And actually, he's got some Republicans backing it too. I believe this is the one that Don Frankenfeld, Republican from Rapid City, he's also co-sponsoring. He thinks it's a good idea. And I say, oh, Frankenfeld, if he thinks it's a good idea, well, it must be good stuff, right? Or so my blog friends joke about. But Initiated Measure 22 does three major things. One, it does some lobbying reform. It expands the definition of lobbying. It says, hey, lobbying isn't just trying to get bills passed in the legislature. It's influencing anything governmental. Policy making, rule making, things the governor's doing, whatever. So a lobbyist isn't just someone who's bending the ear of the legislators during session. It's someone who drops by the governor's office in June and says, you know, Governor, maybe we ought to talk about another economic development grant for Northern beef packers or something like that. That kind of activity gets included in lobbying as well. They have to register if they're doing that activity. It also expands the definition of who is not eligible to be a lobbyist after working in government. Right now, there's a 1-year wait period. If you've been an elected official, and then you end your term, and then you're like, hey, I want to go make money as a lobbyist, you have to wait a year before you do that. Rick Weiland's measure, Initiated Measure 22, expands that rule to apply to the governor's appointees, to department chiefs, and the top staffers in the departments. When they stand down, they can't go lobby either, but we expand that stand down window to 2 years instead of 1. So it's an effort to kind of cut down that revolving door, keep public officials from taking advantage of the position we give them to put money in their pockets. Lobbying reform. There's also campaign finance reform tucked in this one. And I know it's a lot of stuff, and it doesn't relate to the other bills, but Rick Weiland's Initiated Measure 22, it does campaign finance reform. It puts some new caps on the size of contributions from individuals. It actually lowers the amounts that state legislators and candidates for everything but governor can take. It also, for the first time, sets limits on the contributions that parties and PACs can make. Right now, you form a PAC, you can take unlimited cash and you can give unlimited cash. 22 puts limits on that. And it's different amounts for different purposes. I'm not going to do the spreadsheet today. But basically, the campaign finance reform in 22 does a lot of things to limit how much money big money interests can put into campaigns. Okay? Also changes some reporting requirements, all trying to make campaigns more accountable and the committees more accountable. Third thing within campaign finance reform is 22 creates a public financing system for campaigns. Every citizen in the state will be entitled to 2 $50 democracy credits. Our tax dollars. We get $100 of our tax dollars back, but we don't get to cash it in for groceries or Pizza Ranch. We can dedicate that money to candidates of our choice. Every citizen gets to do that. Says, hey, yep, just like you do on your federal tax form. You can say, well, there you just say, yes, put $3 in the presidential fund, and then it goes to whoever claims the money. This one, you get to decide. The government says, you've paid in taxes. Here's $100. Which candidate do you want to give it to? You can give it to whichever candidate you want, or don't give it to anyone. If you don't give it to anyone, it just stays in the pot, and we use it in the general fund for other things. Okay? The candidates who get those dollars, they can say, yeah, I'll take democracy credits, but those candidates have to promise that they won't take contributions of more than $250, I think for like legislative and statewide candidates, or I think for governor it's $500. Again, I want to check the details on that. But basically, candidates have to agree to campaign finance limits to accept those democracy credits. Again, trying to empower the voters and trying to limit the influence of big money. I think that's an okay idea. The big kicker in the campaign finance reform bill in 22 is the State Ethics Commission. To enforce all those rules and to look into other corruption in state government, Initiated Measure 22 would finally restore the State Ethics Commission that we had back in the Knipe years, but which then strangely disappeared around the time Janklow came into office. I'm sure that's just correlation, not causation, but 22 gives us a State Ethics Commission to look into campaign finance, to keep people honest, to look into corruption in government. That by itself, the State Ethics Commission, is what stamps the yes on 22 for me. Campaign finance reform, lobbying reform, those are good checks on corruption too, but I like that State Ethics Commission best. So that's why I'm going to say yes on 22.